It is Thursday morning and the government is officially reopened. President Trump signed the legislation that would fund the government until January 30th, late last night. Just for context, my name is Camille. I'm a political reporter based in DC, and I've been covering every single day of this government shutdown and trying to inform you guys about what's happening on Capitol Hill and what lawmakers are saying. And now there's this really big question of like, okay, what happens now? I mean, we know that early in the morning at like 1 or 2 a.m., OMB sent a message to all the furloughed workers. These are federal employees that were not required to go into work every day, but still were not getting paid, telling them that they needed to return to work today. But then we're like, okay, but what else are we going to anticipate in the days ahead? So let me break this down. Basically, we're being told that people should still expect to experience some travel delays when it comes to flight cancellations or just delays in air travel because of all the staffing shortages that have been happening in the last few weeks among air traffic controllers and TSA workers. And the Department of Transportation basically said it's going to take several days to kind of go back to a place of normalcy, because it's been anything but normal. And just in case people have forgotten, this has been the longest government shutdown to ever happen and has taken an extensive toll on our workers, on federal employees, on just people in general. Now, there's also this question of like, okay, when are people going to receive food stamps? Remind you, the Department of Agriculture announced weeks ago that they were no longer going to roll out these benefits because of the government shutdown. And we're being told that essentially roughly 42 million Americans will receive their full benefits in the month of November. But the timing of that will depending on the state that they live in. Now, I feel like, okay, is this over? Do we have to stop watching what happens on Capitol Hill? Not so quite. Essentially, the bill that was just passed in the House and in the Senate only funds the government until January 30th, meaning that lawmakers have until then to try to pass as many spending bills as possible that will fund the government for longer periods of time in order to make sure that we don't end up in the same situation that we did starting on January 31st, because if they don't, then that means we're in another government shutdown. And I feel like, okay, lawmakers need to pass spending bills, check. Well, I haven't even talked to you guys about some of the drama that's unfolding on Capitol Hill just in the last few hours among lawmakers that have them fuming at the senators, and even House Democratic lawmakers and House Republican lawmakers banding together and being like, this is not right. Essentially, in the proposal that was just passed in the House and Senate, they basically snuck something in that allows senators to sue DOJ if they find out that their phone records were obtained without their knowledge. Now, I feel like, what's a big deal here? Well, essentially, this provision would allow senators to receive a $500,000 payment if federal law enforcement obtains their electronic data and does not notify them. And it was basically a direct response to a recent development that happened where 8 Republican senators found out that they had their phone records subpoenaed during a formal DOJ investigation that took place a while ago. And a lot of people are saying, hey, wait a second, this is not right. This will specifically benefit only a select few. And mind you, the whole argument that Republicans made in the very beginning of this government shutdown was, let's pass a spending bill that includes no policy changes. That was the whole argument to Democrats when Democrats wanted them to include language that would extend these Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies. And they kept being like, no, let's just pass a straightforward bill to fund the government, no policy changes. And then last minute, Senate Republicans snuck in a policy change, and that has Republicans and also Democrats really fuming on the House side. Now, if you're like, okay, what's going to happen now? Well, essentially, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, announced that next week, the House is going to take up legislation to basically overturn this provision because he doesn't feel that this is right. And we're told that this is going to get a lot of bipartisan support because Democratic lawmakers I spoke to yesterday say they have a really big problem with this. And if you're like, okay, what is going to happen with these subsidies that are set to expire next month? Because as you just mentioned, this proposal doesn't include any language to extend them. Well, we're being told that the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, has actually been talking openly, kind of opening up a conversation and a dialogue with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And he says that, you know what, he really wants to start moving in a direction where they can address finding a longer term solution for this. Because if you guys remember in my past videos, I actually said that there is a lot of House Republican lawmakers that were saying, hey, we do need to find a longer term solution for this. Now, we know that on the Senate side, they're definitely going to hold a vote next month to address these subsidies. But on the House side, now that we're hearing that the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, is more open and actually starting to have conversations with Jeffries to try to address a longer-term solution, it's looking a little bit more optimistic that they're going to hold a vote as well, or at least try to sit down and seriously have conversations to see where we go from here. Okay, I think this is all I have for now, but I want to hear from you guys. Would you guys still like morning updates where I kind of share what's happening on Capitol Hill, or just about what's happening in the world of politics in general? I don't know if I mentioned this in my past videos, but I've now been a journalist for over 8 years. I've been covering Capitol Hill on and off since 2017. And I feel like part of my goal is to just break down really complicated things and say it in a way that people can understand, even if you haven't been following all along. And I really do, I enjoy doing that. So let me know what you guys think, because I don't know, I'm still kind of playing around with different ideas, because a lot of this I do in my free time or in my mornings. And as you have seen in past videos, they get a little chaotic and a little crazy. And I can never say what I'm truly doing every single day, because my schedule looks very different on a day-to-day basis. I mean, anyway, I have to go. My little baby needs me, but I'll see you guys later.
43 days shutdown is finally over. Do you know why I'm shocked about this shutdown? My Black Americans were never worried. They weren't over happy that the shutdown has even ended. I'm like, you guys didn't tell me, and that's why I didn't bring the news. What happened, right? And one more thing I noticed about this shutdown is, anyway, just watch these videos. I'll be back. I'll tell you something about this shutdown. Do not miss it. Watch this video to the end. You will see what I want to tell you about the shutdown. It's super interesting. I promise. But you guys shocked me, and I'm so amazing. I'm so shocked about it. You guys are amazing. Anyways, watch these videos. I'll be back. Do not forget credits to those creators. I'll be back.
If you're watching this video, then that means that the US government has reopened after the longest government shutdown in American history, totaling 43 days. So what's the damage? Well, for starters, 1.2 million American workers haven't been paid in 43 days. Thousands of flights have been canceled, and millions of food stamp recipients haven't seen their benefits yet for the month of November. Now that the shutdowns come to an end, a lot of these issues will self-correct. Food stamp recipients will receive their benefits, albeit be late. Federal employees will go back to work if they're not working already, and will receive back pay for the last 43 days. And the Department of Transportation will begin to rescale up flights out of American airports, meaning that we could expect delays to start to diminish. But unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and rainbows because of the way that the government shutdown came to an end. What caused this shutdown was an inability for the Democrats and the Republicans to agree on an extension of Affordable Care Act subsidies that help keep the cost of healthcare low for millions of Americans. Basically, the Democrats were like, hey, in this funding bill, we want to include some expenditure on these subsidies that will ensure the healthcare premiums for millions of Americans don't go up by thousands of dollars per year. And then the Republicans were like, hey, actually, f*** you. Then the Democrats were like, hey, guess what? Affordable healthcare for the working class is kind of a non-negotiable for us. But then 43 days into the shutdown, 7 weak Democrats in the Senate decided it was a negotiable and conceded to the Republicans, got nothing. And although that reopened the government, it also puts affordable access to healthcare for millions of Americans on the line. Anyways, that's all for now.
Breaking fucking news. This is an update on gardening stuff. I'm not going to say the words TH you know what, because last time I did, they took my video down off the For You page. Fresh off defeating state TH ban, Texas hemp industry faces wipeout under federal deal to end shutdown. As part of the spending bill to end the government shutdown, federal lawmakers approved a provision cracking down on hemp products containing TH, restoring a ban in Texas Republicans sought to impose earlier this year. The funding package, passed by the U.S. House and signed into law by President Donald Trump on Wednesday, includes language banning the sale of hemp-derived products with more than 0.4 milligrams of TH, you know what, the psychoactive element in marijuana, you know what. The measure would criminalize almost all consumable hemp products nationwide. The provision was added at the last minute to a bill that provides year-long funding for the Department of Agriculture. It closes what proponents of the ban call a loophole from the 2018 Farm Bill that allowed hemp industry to take off without federal regulations. Unless Congress reverses course, the ban is set to start a year after the legislation goes into effect. Opponents of the provision warn it will effectively shut down Texas' $8 billion hemp industry and the thousands of jobs associated with the sale of consumable TH products. Keep you updated with more. Actually, psych, hey, I'm not gonna lie, they can go ahead and ban that shit if they want to. I'm back in the streets, baby. Come get it, 45 and 8.
I think what we've learned tonight, which is consistent with other shutdowns, you can keep the government shut down until someone sits on a runway for 7 hours on their way home for a holiday. They get so pissed, they don't care if they're red or blue, and it hurts every politician. And that's exactly what happened in the last 48 hours. Same deal. It wasn't anything else except the transit of America got shut down and people got pissed. And they called in to the representation and said, hey, bozos, get back to Washington and turn this thing back on, you morons. And I think that's kind of important because at the end of the day, you're elected to serve the people. And when they can't move around to see their families or do business or conduct the economy, they get pissed.
Well, the government shutdown has ended and the government is reopening. Yay! We're saved. All them people gonna get that food stamp money. One of them weird delivery trucks, man. I don't trust them. It just says delivery truck on the side. Now I'm sure everybody's gonna get their Doge dividend check that was promised. Oh yeah. Because they care about the American people. It doesn't say delivery truck. It says delivery driver. There's these x-ray trucks, man, that I've seen on the internet that, you know, can look inside your homes and look inside of fucking buildings and shit. Anyway, I'm sure that's funded by Palantir. I'm sure they got some good fucking money in this bill. Peter Thiel and friends. He says things like we need to lower the population on Earth stuff, you know. Anyway, the U.S. government shutdown is over. The U.S. government is a corporation, and the states are corporations, and the counties are corporations, and the cities are corporations, and you, because of your all capital letters name, are a corporation, which is traded on Wall Street and backs all of our fake money. But anyway, none of that is important to the government, and they don't want you knowing about Admiralty law and stuff like that, because it would prove that they're a fucking scam. They don't want that. Anyway, enough of that. I had a great day. And, you know, for all you married men out there, you know what I mean. It was good. Much love. Peace. My wife's staring at me now. It's a good stare, I think. Was it a good stare?
Stare?
Were you staring at me?
I don't know. I might have been.
I think it was. Anyway.
The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees have missed their paychecks. Tens of billions in wages and benefits were withheld, impacting vulnerable families. Millions of low-income Americans missed their SNAP benefits. Nearly 20,000 flights at airports across the country were delayed due to staffing shortages, causing Americans to miss family events, vacations, and work.
They put this out: missed paychecks, over 10 billion in wages and benefits withheld, millions of low-income families lost access to SNAP, widespread flight disruptions, and billions erased from the economy, all to appease the radical left, and they gained absolutely nothing. I don't know if you've been following this over in America, the government shutdown. Well, yeah. Why do these people think they're going to win all the time? Then they put this out: President Trump signs bill to reopen the government, end Democrat shutdown. You will not beat this man. You will not beat this man. I don't understand why people are so against it, so against him. What was better under the Biden administration? What was better? You tell me. Because if you go and look at the markets and, you know, the dollar, employment towards unemployment, I think he's done miles better. And he could find a cure for cancer, that man, and he'd still get criticised. Right, pick time people grow up a little bit. Because what you're doing, you're just making other people suffer. Like she just told you. Crazy. Honestly, it is mental. I don't think you can ever beat him. Ever.
Nobody has gained anything from this shutdown. In fact, it was a completely avoidable disaster from the very beginning. And had Donald Trump not insisted on passing a giant domestic policy bill that gave handouts to billionaires at the expense of the American people and their health care and food assistance and educational assistance, we wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. And they knew headed into the shutdown, the Democrats were ready to negotiate, to come to the table. And instead, the Speaker of the House chose used to shut down the House, and then the president engaged in an escalating series of basically hostage situations that ended ultimately with taking children hostage and withholding food assistance from them. So I think all of us are relieved to see an end to this shutdown, but at the end of the day, the only people who lost in this shutdown are the American people. And I hope that my colleagues are being honest when they say that they want to address the healthcare crisis, but I have to say that the behavior that I've witnessed here on Capitol Hill over the last 24 hours indicates to me that they are not negotiating in good faith.
The government shutdown is officially over. After 43 days, the president signed a bill last night to reopen the government. Now, most Democrats, though, oppose this legislation because it does not address the rising health care costs.
Thousands of federal workers are expected to be back on the job as soon as today and should get paid soon. Most SNAP recipients should see their benefits restored quickly, and Smithsonian museums here in the nation's capital will reopen in the coming days.
With the stroke of his pen, President Trump ended the longest government shutdown in U.S. history.
I hope we can all agree that the government should never be shut down again. The bill is passed.
The law took effect immediately after the House narrowly approved the funding package, with 6 Democrats crossing party lines to join Republicans.
What do you think of the Democrats who supported the package tonight?
They did the right thing.
The measure extends government funding through January 30th, pays back federal workers while reinstating those who were fired, and guarantees SNAP or food assistance benefits for a full year.
I will be casting my vote as a no. In fact, it will be a hell no.
And vote yes. If not, you're the ones that are taking money from needy families.
Democrats largely oppose the legislation, arguing it failed to extend Affordable Care Act tax credits for 20 million Americans facing rising health insurance premiums.
This fight is not over. We're just getting started.
Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries filed a petition to force a vote to guarantee the subsidies for the next 3 years.
Are you still willing to negotiate on this issue with Republicans?
We've always been willing to negotiate in a bipartisan way, but Republicans have been unwilling to sit down and even have a conversation with Democrats.
Michael Gallatly heads a union for federal workers in Utah and questioned whether the shutdown was worth it.
It's kind of demoralizing, frankly, frustrating. I and my people are just trying to work for the American people.
President Trump said he's open to working with Democrats on health care, although he's made clear that he believes the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, should be overhauled. He also called for an end to the filibuster, a long-standing tradition in the Senate to prevent future shutdowns.
So back in October, the Trump administration wanted it to be legal to not give people their SNAP benefits, right? So they sent the case to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said yes. Big shocker. The Supreme Court vote was 6-3. 6 saying yes, that it was legal to not allow 42 million Americans to eat, while 3 said no. Why would you do that? And as majority rules, unfortunately for the justices who said no, that's really all they could say, except for Justice Ketanji Jackson, who actually had a little trick up her sleeve. You see, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson knew that that fucking Supreme Court ruling was going to screw over Americans. She knew that shit. And so she sent the case to the lower courts so that they could make a decision. And she's the justice that revealed that the contingency funds were gone. All $5 billion. Gone. $5 billion vanished due to the executive branch. And on the surface level, it would appear as though the Trump administration got away with it, like they're getting away with it. But no, what you guys fail to understand is that Justice Ketanji Jackson actually created a paper trail. She created a paper trail, and that's the reason why so many of these Republicans, you understand, these big corporations who actually backed, you understand, a lot of these politicians, put them into place so that they were able to serve their initiative, their agenda, were stated and coming out, saying that if they don't secure the midterm elections, that they're going to jail. That $5 billion contingency fund, they all took a piece of it. So Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, right, starts the paper trail, reveals to the public that the contingency fund, the $5 billion contingency fund, has been cleared. All of a sudden, all of these Republicans and Republican supporters are talking about, listen, if we don't get a grip on this shit, we're going to jail. And then just as the government opens back up, all of a sudden, Republicans are preparing a mass rebellion against Donald Trump in a vote to release all classified files in relation to the Jeffrey Epstein files? And the person who's leading it is Speaker Mike Johnson? Oh, this is really giving that classic case of before the bus hits me, I'm going to push you under it. Because, yeah. So apparently, at least 100 or more Republicans are expected to support the release of the files after a selection of the emails, which was sent by the deceased pedophile, financer that frequently mentioned the U.S. president, were made public on Wednesday. In the email, Epstein talks about Donald Trump spending hours at his home. And now you have Mike Johnson, a known Republican representative, stating that he is going to hold a vote next week to compel the Justice Department to release the files. The Republican Party is on his ass, but only because they're trying to save theirs. And many are hoping because Mike Johnson is leading the march that senior Republicans are also going to follow suit. Now, Mr. Trump has been often caught, blaming the Democrats and saying that they're reflecting. Let's see what he's going to tell his own party. Not that they're demanding for the release of these files.
A shout out to those creators, Now, here's what I want to say about the lockdown. Do you notice that? This is like a gossip anyways. Do you notice that the moment Black Americans stopped worrying, they never came out for the protests, and they started helping each other, they started giving out SNAP benefits for November. Of course, they said in November there will be no SNAP benefits, right? They were expecting to see Black Americans on the streets. They expected to see you all crying, begging, so they can use police, and get a lot of people. But it didn't work this time around. Do you notice that? That is what I wanted to tell you. And then in the midst of everything, we all planned that November 25, we're going to seize our cash, our black dollar, right? Now, we're not going to buy anything. We're not going to celebrate Thanksgiving. We're not going to celebrate Christmas. We're not buying gifts. We're not doing Black Friday and all of that. They saw the seriousness and they saw the composure. Black people started helping. Foundational Black Americans started helping people. And that moment, they started distributing benefits to some places. And then the next thing we heard was, the shutdown has been reopened. Honestly, I give it to you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are the best team to work with. When they started this shutdown, there was something I said. If you remember, I was the first person that said this on this app. I said, Black Americans will survive. Even when they said, November, there will be no SNAP benefits, I said, Black Americans will survive. They used to it. These guys survived slavery, redlining, they survived Jim Crow, segregation. What is the whole SNAP benefit thing? Back in the days, they were not even given SNAP benefits. They were not even allowed to vote, right? And I said it here, I said, you have to cut down expenses this time around. And a lot of you were like, yeah, we understand. And I went all through the media and I saw what Black Americans were doing, and I'm like, yeah, I am in the right team. And to be honest, shutdown is over. A lot of people will start getting their benefits. A lot of people will start getting payments again. But I don't know for the flights, right? I don't think flights are going to start moving at the moment. But whatever it is, I'm going to bring it here so we can actually talk about it. But here is me, celebrating you all for your patience, for your consistency, for your strength. Man, you guys are amazing. Please keep it up. All right, do not forget to subscribe, like, share these videos to your friend. I'll see you on the next one. You all won. Bye, guys.